Relax now, and let yourself settle into the gentle hush of the moment. Close your eyes softly, and imagine the world around you growing calm and soft, like a quiet winter evening, where the air is crisp and the hush of falling snow mutes the distant sounds. Feel yourself breathing slowly, deeply, as if you are drifting into a dream, while the wind outside whispers through bare branches like a lullaby. Let your shoulders melt and your mind grow still as you rest in this peaceful space. Our story today begins in a quiet village tucked into the folds of rolling hills, where medieval peasants live simple yet resilient lives. Snowflakes drift gently down, and moonlight glimmers across frost-tipped rooftops. In this humble place, life may be hard, but kindness, warmth, and ingenuity shine like candles in the darkness. In the heart of winter, when the nights stretched long and the cold settled in like a steady companion, the peasants of this village learned to survive. Their cottages were small and simple, rough-hewn walls of wattle and daub, clay and straw mixed with care, shaped by steady hands. When the wind howled outside, the walls seemed to breathe softly, offering a gentle protection against the icy air. Inside each cottage, there was a hearth, a stone fireplace at the center of the home, where the family's life pulsed softly, warm and steady. A low fire crackled, sending cozy amber light dancing across clay pots, wooden beams, and woven baskets. The scent of smoldering wood mingled with the faint aroma of barley porridge, filling the room with gentle comfort. On these cold nights, the peasants turned to simple but ingenious ways to stay warm. Over their hay beds they would pile soft straw, thick, dry, and clean, carefully stored from the harvest season. The straw formed a cushion beneath their coarse but sturdy wool blankets, giving insulation from the hard, cold earth. As they lay down, they could feel the gentle padding beneath them, a mattress made from the very fields that sustained them in summer. Above all, they relied on the simple but powerful tool of layering. Their garments were made of rough wool and homespun linen, each layer chosen for warmth. A linen shirt next to the skin, then a woolen tunic, then wool breeches, then perhaps a heavy cloak at night. These layers trapped pockets of air, quietly holding in heat. Their feet were wrapped in thick wool socks, or even straw in some cases, to keep the toes from freezing in the long, dark hours. Candlelight played an important role in this quiet, frugal world. The peasants made candles from tallow, rendered fat from the animals they tended, or from beeswax when they were lucky. The light from a candle was soft and flickering, not bright like a lantern or torch, but gentle, calm, and warm. The dancing flame cast shifting shadows on the walls, and the glow warmed the small, humble rooms like a secret friend. Imagine a family, a husband, a wife, perhaps a child or two, gathered around the hearth. The mother stirs a clay pot of stew, root vegetables from their garden, perhaps a little barley or some dried peas, simmering in water, glowing warmly in the pot's curved belly. The father sits nearby, nursing a wooden mug of weak ale or watered wine, breathing deeply, relaxed by the warmth. The child, nestled under a wool blanket, listens to the crackle of the fire and the soft murmur of voices, lulled by the peaceful routine. Outside, the wind moans through the eaves, but inside, the small cottage feels like a sanctuary. Every twig of wood added to the fire brings another ripple of warmth. The family's hearts are full of gentle gratitude, grateful for simple food, for the haybed, for the sturdy walls that shelter them from the outside chill. When the stew is ready, they eat by candlelight. The mother ladles steaming portions into wooden bowls. Each mouthful is humble but nourishing. Sweet root vegetables, chewy barley, just enough salt, warmed by the fire's glow. The flickering flame shivers in the clay pot's curved rim, echoing the little laughter, the soft conversation, the gentle clinking of wooden bowls. Then, after the modest meal, they rest. Storytelling is not only for children. At night, the parents speak quietly about their day, or perhaps recall an old folk tale of wandering minstrels, of brave knights, or of forest spirits that dance under moonlit branches. Their voices drop to a whisper, soft as falling snow, as they speak of dreams and hopes for the coming spring. When it's time to sleep, they climb into their hay mattress. The hay, clean and dry, pressed into a thick pallet, gives them insulation from the cold ground. Over this, they spread coarse but warm woolen blankets, layered in folds. The child nestles close to the mother, breathing slowly. Rhythmically, the father lies beside, his cloak draped loosely around him, and the family is cocooned in warmth. As they drift off, the fire's glow begins to soften, its embers shrinking gently, turning from flame to gentle coals that hum softly in the hearth. The candle's flame flickers one last time before being blown out, leaving a gentle darkness pierced by pale moonlight through a small window. The hush of the night deepens, broken only by the whisper of wind, the sigh of straw settling, and the quiet breathing of those asleep. In that frozen, medieval night, survival depends not only on warmth but on community and careful planning. The villagers work together, at other times, gathering firewood in autumn from the nearby forest, cutting small branches and dead wood, stacking it carefully in a dry shed. They share chores, some care for animals, others tend small winter gardens of hardy greens like kale or winter cabbage, and a few dry and store herbs and roots to use in their cooking or medicine. They also use clever tricks. Clay pots, warmed by the hearth, are used to radiate heat. Before bed, a pot might be filled with warm water and placed near the hearth to absorb the warmth. Later, the pot is carried into the sleeping area and tucked close but safely to radiate that captured heat through the night. Another trick is to hang thick tapestries or animal skins across doorways to slow cold drafts from entering the living space. Even the small windows, made of oiled parchment or thin cloth, help block wind but also let in moonlight, creating a gentle glow without letting freezing air pour in. Picture now, as you listen, how a pot of warm water sits near the hearth, its sides still humming warmth. The embers glow softly, gentle and red. You can almost feel the radiating heat pressing into your fingertips if you imagine touching the pot. Outside, the wind's breath is icy, but inside the cottage is as safe and cozy as a mother's arms. Now allow your mind to drift further into this winter's night. Imagine the sky overhead, deep indigo, studded with pale stars that sparkle quietly, like distant lanterns. A silvery moon hangs low, casting long shadows across the snowy ground. There's a hush to the world, and the only sound is the sigh of wind over rooftops and the soft crackle of embers. Inside that humble cottage, your body feels heavy with warmth and comfort. Your breath is slow and steady. Your heartbeat is calm, rhythmic. With every exhale, you let go a little more. With every inhale, you draw in that gentle peace. Imagine yourself lying on a soft hay bed. The straw beneath you rustles quietly, like a soft breeze through high grass. Above you, a wool blanket envelops you, warm and comforting. Perhaps you imagine that you are part of that peasant family, or maybe you are simply a calm observer, watching them with compassion, feeling the safety of their hearth in your bones. The air smells faintly of burning wood and cooked root vegetables, sweet and earthy, and the stone floor beneath your back hums with residual warmth. As your mind floats, carried softly on this scene, I will whisper more of how these medieval souls survived the coldest nights with resilience, resourcefulness, and quiet courage. They had another secret. Their simple diets, even in winter, gave them strength. They preserved vegetables by drying or pickling. Roots like carrots, turnips, or parsnips stored in cool cellars layered with straw. They kept small stores of salted meat or dried fish. In the harshest months, they leaned on what they had saved, and they rationed carefully. They learned how to stretch every morsel, making stews, porridge, and hearty soups. Imagine now the mother dipping into her stored root vegetables, pulling out a parsnip here, a carrot there, washing them in a basin of cold water, cutting them carefully into pieces. She adds them to a clay pot over warm coals, along with a little barley and water, stirring gently with a wooden spoon. Steam rises, swirling softly, drifting up into the low beams of the cottage like a gentle cloud. The aroma is comforting and plain. As they eat, they talk softly of spring planting, of fledgling chicks, of budding leaves, of future harvests. In their quiet voices, there is hope. Even in the darkest part of winter, they know that the seasons will turn, that warmth will come again. And when the meal is done, they gather more wood for the fire. They fetch kindling, slender twigs, dry bark, small branches, and lay them carefully on the embers. The flames flicker again, small and golden, dancing into life. The father feeds the fire patiently, coaxing it with slow breaths, until the hearth glows warmly once more. Now, with the fire back in gentle flame, they take a few moments just to sit together. The mother might cradle a mug of warm, mild ale. The father might lean back, listening to the crackle of wood. The child might rest their head on a wool pillow, eyes half closed as sleep tugs gently at their lids. The candlelight flickers, casting soft shadows on their faces, shadows that sway slowly, as if telling their own secret stories. In the hush of this moment, you can feel your own body relax further. The gentle breathing of the family, the warm glow of the hearth, the soft flicker of candlelight, they become your lullaby. Your mind drifts and sways with each gentle movement of flame, each rhythmic crackle of wood, each sigh of comfort. Let me take you now into a memory, a winter from long ago, when one particularly harsh night came. The wind outside stormed bitterly. Snow piled high against the eaves. The family inside knew they had to be vigilant. The father, earlier in the day, had gone deep into the forest to cut wood, balancing delicate branches on his back, breathing in the sharp pine air. The mother had carefully banked the fire before dusk, layering ashes over the coals, so that even while asleep, the hearth would continue to glow. When night fell, they lit every candle they could spare. 3 small candles in clay holders, set on a rough wooden shelf above the hearth. The flickering light made dancing shapes across the slowly darkening room. They sat close together by the fire, sharing a bowl of porridge, sweetened with a little dried fruit. The child, sleepy-eyed, gazed into the dancing flames, watching shadows stretch and shrink in time with the glow. Then they carried out their heat-saving ritual. The warm clay pot trick, the pot that had held water earlier, now heated, still warm to the touch, was carried into the sleeping area carefully. The mother placed it near their hay bed, nestled safely but warmly, so that through the night, it would radiate gentle heat. On either side, they hung tapestries made of thick wool, drawn across the doorframe to block the biting draft. A small rug over the wood floor helped keep their feet off the cold stone. As they drifted to sleep, the father whispered a blessing for health, for protection, for tomorrow. The mother hummed softly, a tune she'd heard long ago, perhaps in her own childhood. Their breaths wove together, slow and peaceful. And soon the room grew still, lit only by the faint glow of embers and the soft gleam of moonlight through the window. Outside, the wind roared, but inside, everything was gentle, safe, and warm. And in that night, the family slept deeply, held by the quiet comfort they had built with their own hands. Now, as you continue to relax, feel yourself drifting deeper into this simple, warm world. Let the story flow around you like a soft blanket. Let each detail settle gently in your mind. The straw beneath you, the wool above you, the clay pot radiating heat, the flicker of candlelight, the murmur of gentle voices, the crackle of the hearth. Let your breathing match the rhythm of the hearth's glow. Slow in, slow out, warm in, warm out. Imagine the gentle warmth spreading through your body, soft and constant, calming every muscle, every bone, every thought. You're safe here, in this peaceful medieval cottage in the heart of winter. The outside world might be cold and harsh, but inside, everything is simple, stable, and steady. This place exists in your mind now, a sanctuary of warmth, a quiet refuge. Soon, I will take you further into the village, showing how other families survive, how community helps, how resourcefulness and kindness shine in the darkest nights. But for now, as you rest comfortably, let the fire's glow lull you. Let the gentle voice of the story comfort you, and let your mind drift softly into sleep. All right, settle back in again. Let your body grow even heavier now. The world around you slows down. Breathe softly in and out. Imagine the faint hum of the hearth once more. The warmth is steady. The wind outside has grown calmer, like a tired traveler finally resting after a long journey. You can almost hear the slow rhythm of snowflakes landing on the thatched roof, one after another. soft, light, and endless. Now that you're calm and safe, let's wander deeper into our story. Our story tonight continues as the village slowly wakes to another winter morning. The snow outside lies deep, smooth, and white, untouched, except for the narrow paths the peasants have carved between cottages. Smoke rises gently from every chimney, curling upward like sleepy ghosts. The sun is pale, barely lifting itself above the horizon. It spills cold light over the world, glinting off frost, shimmering across the frozen thatch. Inside each cottage, life stirs quietly. A mother rises early to rekindle the fire, blowing softly on the embers until a glow blooms again beneath the ashes. She adds dry twigs, listening to the faint crackle as the fire wakes, stretching into orange life. The warmth spreads slowly, pushing back the night chill. She moves about in wool stockings and a heavy shawl, her breath visible in the air until the fire grows strong. In the corner of the room, a wooden chest holds the family's few possessions: folded woolen tunics, a carved spoon, a small bundle of herbs tied in linen. Every object tells a story. The spoon was carved by the father one quiet winter evening when the wind howled outside. The herbs, thyme and sage, were gathered by the mother during summer, dried in the sun, then tucked away to season stews or soothe fevers. Even the wool blanket has its own quiet history, spun and woven by hand, perhaps from the fleece of their own sheep. As the fire crackles stronger, she takes the clay pot that had been kept warm through the night. Inside, the water is still faintly warm. She pours it into a smaller pot, stirs in a bit of coarse ground grain, and sets it on the hearth to make morning porridge. The smell of toasting grain fills the air, mingling with wood smoke, a comforting scent that says home. Her husband rises next, pulling on his heavy cloak. He opens the door just a crack and peers outside. A cold gust rushes in, biting and sharp. The snow glitters in the early light, and he can see the frozen forest beyond the fields, tall, skeletal trees rimmed with ice. He knows there is work to do, wood to chop, paths to clear, animals to feed. But he takes a moment to breathe in the icy air, his breath turning to fog before him. The world is quiet, still only the distant call of a crow echoes across the valley. Behind him, the mother hums softly, stirring the pot. The sound of the wooden spoon against the clay is rhythmic, soothing, swish, scrape, swish. The child stirs beneath the blankets, yawning, cheeks rosy from the chill. "Good morning," she whispers softly, her voice like a lullaby breaking the hush. The child smiles sleepily and pulls the blanket tighter for a moment, savoring the warmth. The firelight flickers across their face, painting gold in the shadows. Slowly, they rise, rubbing their eyes, and shuffle toward the hearth. The family gathers close, drawn by the gentle heat. They eat together, simple porridge, steaming in wooden bowls, flavored with a pinch of honey if they are lucky that day. The spoonfuls are slow and quiet. Outside, the light grows stronger, and faintly, through the small parchment-covered window, the village begins to move. Someone leads a cow toward the barn. Someone else carries a bundle of sticks. Children's laughter drifts faintly through the still air. The peasants' winter lives depend on rhythm, slow, careful routines that keep them alive. Each morning begins the same, tending the fire, feeding the animals, checking the stored food, patching clothes, repairing tools. There is no rush, only steady purpose. The cold demands patience, and the villagers understand the wisdom of moving slowly. The father leaves the cottage with his axe in hand. Snow crunches beneath his boots as he heads to the edge of the forest. His breath puffs in white clouds as he walks. The trees stand silent, their branches heavy with snow. He finds a fallen log dry enough to cut and begins his work. Each swing of the axe echoes in the still air, steady, rhythmic. The sound carries through the woods like a slow heartbeat. The mother stays behind, sweeping the floor with a bundle of straw tied with twine. She hums an old winter song, soft and melodic, a tune passed down from her own mother. The words speak of warmth and patience, of fires that never die, of spring that always returns. Her voice fills the small space like sunlight, wrapping the child in a blanket of sound. After tidying, she kneels by a small wooden cradle, checking the bundle of herbs hanging from a peg on the wall. She crumbles a bit of dried sage between her fingers, its scent sharp and green even in winter, and sprinkles some into the pot simmering on the hearth. The smell brightens the air. Later, she might spin wool or mend torn clothes by the window's pale light. Each stitch is slow, careful, almost meditative. The soft scrape of the needle through cloth, the flicker of firelight on her hands, it all becomes a rhythm, a trance. As the day passes, the warmth in the cottage deepens. The walls seem to breathe, holding in the heat. The child plays quietly on the floor with a carved wooden horse, tracing patterns in the straw with small fingers. Outside, the light fades early. Winter days are short, and soon the sky glows amber, then violet, then deep indigo once more. When the father returns, his cloak dusted with snow, he carries a bundle of firewood on his back. The door creaks open, and with it comes a brief rush of cold air. Then it closes again, and warmth envelops him. He stamps his boots, shakes off the frost, and sets the wood by the hearth. The mother greets him with a gentle smile. They share a few quiet words, too soft to catch, words of small gratitude, of relief, of routine comfort. She hands him a cup of warm broth. He drinks it slowly, feeling the heat spread through his body. The fire burns brighter now, logs crackling and popping. Shadows dance across the walls, flickering softly over clay pots and hanging herbs. The family sits together once more, the day's work done. Outside, the world darkens fully. The stars appear again, bright and sharp in the cold sky. The moon rises high, silver light spilling through the small window. The snow outside glows faintly in the moonlight, still, pristine, untouched. Inside, time slows. The father pokes the fire gently, sending sparks swirling up the chimney. The mother hums another song, softer this time, almost a whisper. The child leans against her shoulder, eyelids heavy. The air is thick with warmth and quiet contentment. The fire's glow deepens to orange, then red. The candle flickers slowly, casting long, lazy shadows. The wind sighs once against the door, then fades. In this small cottage, the world feels infinite, a cocoon of warmth surrounded by endless night. You can feel it too, can't you? That quiet safety, that calm rhythm of life. Imagine yourself there again, by the fire, a mug of broth in your hands, the scent of wood smoke and sage surrounding you. Hear the soft voices of the family, their laughter faint and kind. Feel the hay mattress beneath you, the wool blanket above. The world outside may be cold and vast, but in here, everything is still, soft, and perfectly warm. You can rest here as long as you wish. Because here, winter is not cruel. It is quiet, protective, eternal. And the fire never truly goes out. Good. Stay relaxed now. Let your breath soften again. In and out. Slow, calm, and deep. Imagine the faint golden glow of the firelight still flickering behind your closed eyes. That soft orange shimmer, breathing with you, fading and brightening in rhythm with your heartbeat. You are warm. You are safe. And our story gently carries on. The night deepens over the medieval valley, and the entire village rests beneath a heavy quilt of snow. From above, it looks like a handful of tiny stars scattered across the white, each cottage a glowing ember, each hearth a heartbeat. But survival in this frozen world was never the task of one family alone. No, in the heart of winter, the peasants leaned upon one another like branches in a grove, each protecting the next from the storm. In this village, nestled between hills and forests, there lived perhaps 20 families, farmers, shepherds, carpenters, each with a role to play. Their homes formed a loose circle around a central square, and in that square stood an ancient oak tree, leafless now, but strong and vast, its branches outstretched like protective arms. Beneath the oak, snow had gathered thickly, but beneath that snow, the roots still held warmth from the earth. It was said among the villagers that this tree had stood for centuries, watching over their ancestors through countless winters. They called it the mother tree. And when the nights grew coldest, the villagers gathered around it, not for warmth of fire, but for warmth of spirit. On the longest night of the year, The night when the sun seemed to sleep longest beneath the horizon, the villagers would hold a quiet gathering, not a loud feast, nor a bright festival, but a slow, gentle ritual of gratitude and hope. Imagine now, snow still falling, lanterns hanging from low branches, their light golden and soft, each flicker glowing against the blue darkness. Men and women, wrapped in wool cloaks, walk slowly through the drifts, carrying baskets of food to share. Barley bread, roasted turnips, bits of cheese. The air hums with quiet voices, the kind that do not rise above the wind, but travel with it, as if the night itself listens. Children huddle near their parents, their cheeks flushed red, their mittens thick with frost. The smell of wood smoke drifts from nearby chimneys, mingling with the faint sweetness of roasted chestnuts. At the base of the old oak, they place offerings, a loaf of bread, a bundle of dried herbs, perhaps a few coins for luck in the coming spring. It is not worship, not in the grand sense, but a conversation with the earth itself, a whisper of thanks for the harvest that had passed, and a gentle plea for the one to come. And as they stand there, beneath the silver gaze of the moon, each person feels less alone. The cold still bites, but the presence of others, their breath, their shared laughter, creates an invisible warmth that no fire could replace. Later, as the night grows even deeper, the families return home, one by one. You can imagine their footsteps in the snow, crunching softly, fading into the quiet. Windows glow faintly through the frost, and smoke curls gently upward from the chimneys once more. Inside, the fires are stoked again, and the scent of pine fills the rooms. In one cottage, an old woman sits near the hearth. Her hands are wrinkled, her hair white as the snow outside. She spins stories as easily as she spins wool, tales of winters long past, of spirits of frost and flame, of travelers lost in the snow who found their way home by candlelight. Around her, children sit cross-legged on the straw-covered floor, listening, wide-eyed and sleepy. The candle flickers as she speaks, her voice rising and falling like wind over the hills. And so, she whispers, the warmth you feel in your home tonight is not only from the fire or the blanket or the stew. It is from the hands that built the walls, the hearts that share the work, the voices that sing when the wind grows wild. The children smile drowsily. One yawns, another leans against her knee. The story becomes softer, slower, as if it too is falling asleep. Outside, the storm grows gentle, flakes drifting like whispers, and within that humble home, time feels endless, a pause between heartbeats, a moment of pure, still peace. Meanwhile, at another cottage near the village edge, a young shepherd tends to his small flock. The sheep are huddled together in a wooden pen, their wool thick and steaming faintly in the cold. He carries a lantern in one hand, its glow trembling in the wind. He checks each animal gently, speaking softly to them, as if his voice alone could warm the air. Easy now. Rest, my friends. Spring will come soon enough. His breath rises in white puffs. Beyond the fence, the forest looms, dark and ancient, but the shepherd feels no fear, only the strange comfort of routine. He's done this every night since the first frost. Every night, he has watched the stars and whispered small wishes into the cold. Tonight, he pauses to look upward. The sky is wide and alive, billions of stars scattered like crushed ice, each one shimmering faintly above the dark trees. And for a moment, he feels the pulse of the world itself, slow, strong, eternal. When he finally returns to his cottage, he brings the scent of the night with him, frost and pine, wool and snow. The warmth inside embraces him instantly. He sets the lantern down, removes his gloves, and lets his fingers hover near the fire, feeling the tingle of life return. The simple joy of warmth, it fills him completely, as if no greater treasure could ever exist. He pours himself a cup of warm cider, takes a slow sip, and closes his eyes. The wind hums outside like a lullaby. And once again, the medieval world sinks into peaceful sleep. Now, take another deep breath, in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Feel yourself there, in that village beneath the snow, among people who know the rhythm of winter and the quiet courage of survival. Every sound you imagine, the creak of wood, the whisper of wind, The crackle of fire slows your mind, loosens your body, and carries you deeper into calm. You can almost feel the straw mattress beneath you again, hear the faint pop of sap inside the burning logs, see the moonlight slipping through a small window to touch your blanket with silver light. The world is still, and so are you. Good. Just keep your breathing slow. Feel that gentle rhythm inside you, steady and calm, like the slow crackle of a distant fire, or the quiet beat of a heart beneath wool and hay. With each breath, imagine the air growing warmer, softer, as if glowing with candlelight. You're safe, resting in the quiet folds of history. And our story drifts onward, like smoke curling lazily into the dark winter sky. The heart of the medieval village beats not only in its fires or food, but in its crafts, the quiet, patient work that filled the long winter months, when the land slept beneath snow, and there were no fields to plow or seeds to sow. The peasants turned to their hands to shape what the earth had given them in the warmer seasons. In one cottage, a man sat hunched by the hearth, his hands busy with a small knife and a block of wood. Each slice of the blade whispered softly through the stillness, curving, shaping, smoothing. He was carving spoons, simple tools for his family, each one unique, polished by both knife and patience. He had learned this art from his father, and his father before him, a winter craft passed through generations like a song. Sometimes he would hum as he worked low and tuneless, but comforting, a murmur that matched the rhythm of the fire. When he was finished, he would rub each spoon with a small bit of tallow to protect the wood, holding it up to the firelight to see the grain glow gold. Then he would place them carefully on a shelf, lined up like quiet blessings. Nearby, his wife spun wool, the spindle turning gently between her fingers. The sound, that faint whir of spinning thread, was a kind of winter music, soft and hypnotic. She had washed, carded, and combed the wool weeks before, preparing it for this very task. Now, she spun by firelight, turning fleece into yarn, yarn into warmth. Each thread would one day become a cloak, a blanket, a cap for her child. Her fingers moved in rhythm, turning and drawing, and as she worked, she thought quietly of spring, the bleating of lambs, the green of new grass, the warmth of the sun on her face. In her heart, she carried the memory of warmth like a flame she refused to let die. Beyond the cottage walls, other homes hummed with similar quiet industry. The village blacksmith, though his forge was small, still worked through the cold months. The ring of his hammer echoed faintly through the still air. A slow, deliberate sound, clang, pause, clang, each strike warming not only the iron, but his very spirit. He mended tools, shaped hooks, repaired hinges and horseshoes. The sparks from his anvil flew like tiny fireflies, brief, bright, alive. In the dim light, his breath steamed with effort, and the glow of molten metal reflected in his eyes. He worked alone most days, but sometimes a neighbor would come to bring him bread or help with the bellows. There were no coins exchanged, only kindness, and the quiet understanding that in winter, help is worth more than gold. Meanwhile, near the edge of the village, a group of women gathered in a cottage once a week to spin, sew, and tell stories together. Their laughter floated gently through the rafters, mixing with the scent of wool and smoke. They spoke of small things, whose cow had calved, which roof had lost a tile to the storm, and of larger dreams too, marriages, new babies, and the distant markets of summer. While their hands worked tirelessly, their voices wove comfort into the air. It was said that the thread spun in company was stronger than that spun in solitude, not because of the wool, but because of the warmth between hearts. The hum of conversation, the clinking of needles, the soft rustle of fabric, these sounds became the heartbeat of winter. And then there was music. Even when food was scarce and nights stretched long and dark, the people still found reasons to sing. One evening, when the moon hung low and frost glittered on every surface, a young man with a lute came to the center of the village. He wore a cloak patched at the elbows, his cheeks flushed red from the cold, and when he smiled, you could see that warmth had found him despite the frost. He sat near the great oak in the square, beneath its heavy branches, and began to play. The melody was simple, a tune older than memory, gentle as falling snow. The notes floated through the still night air, slipping between cottages, curling through the smoke and the cold. Villagers began to emerge, one by one, carrying small candles, their faces soft with quiet wonder. Children stood close together, their eyes wide. Mothers pulled shawls tighter, their breath visible in the flickering light. And then, softly, voices joined the music, low, wavering, human. A song of endurance, of trust, of time itself. It told of seeds sleeping beneath the frost, of rivers dreaming beneath their frozen skin, of light waiting just beyond the horizon. The song built slowly. A whisper turned to a hum turned to harmony. The whole village seemed to sing. No one led, no one followed. They simply breathed together, their voices rising and falling like the tide of some ancient sea. Imagine the sound now, a soft, wordless lullaby, drifting through cold air, carrying warmth to every home, every soul. Even the forest listens, the trees standing still, their branches dusted with snow. The stars gleam brighter, as if pausing to hear the song. And as the final notes fade, a deep hush falls, not empty, but sacred. The villagers smile quietly, exchanging nods, and one by one, they return to their cottages, carrying the song's warmth with them. For in that world, where comfort is handmade, and hope must be kindled like fire, a song is as vital as bread. Now, imagine yourself among them. Your hands are wrapped around a mug of warm cider, steam rising softly in front of your face. You feel the melody linger in the air, vibrating faintly through the wooden walls. The glow from the fire touches your skin. The room smells of wool, pine, and roasted roots. Outside, the snow keeps falling, but here, you are wrapped in warmth, in sound, in the slow heartbeat of the world. The story is still unfolding. The peasants' crafts and songs are not merely survival. They are reminders of what it means to be alive, even in the coldest, quietest times. And as their fires burn low, their hearts remain bright, a promise whispered to the long night. We will endure. We will return. Take another breath, deep and slow. You can almost feel the pulse of that promise echoing inside you. And when you exhale, let go of worry, of noise, of time itself. Because in this moment, you are part of that world, a listener by the hearth, wrapped in warmth, drifting between firelight and dreams. The kind of cold that silences even the wind. The kind that turns breath into crystals and makes the air shimmer faintly in the moonlight. The villagers had known it was coming. The old ones could feel it in their bones. The way animals grew still, the way smoke hung heavier in the air, signs of a deep frost on the horizon. So, through the day, they prepared. Wood was stacked high by the hearths. The last roots from the cellar were brought up, and every scrap of wool and fur was gathered. Doors were checked for cracks. Windows stuffed with straw and cloth. Even the smallest candle was precious now, a fragile thread of warmth in a world made of ice. Inside one of the cottages, our peasant family sat together by their fire. The flames were low, but alive, a flicker of orange against a sea of shadow. The father sat nearest the hearth, feeding the logs, one at a time, watching how each spark leaped and vanished. The mother sewed by candlelight, her needle glinting faintly with each careful stitch. The children were wrapped in layers wool tunics, linen shirts, even scraps of fur. They huddled together beneath a large blanket of spun wool, their cheeks pink from the cold, their eyes heavy with drowsiness. From the rafters hung bundles of herbs, sage, rosemary, lavender, their faint scent drifting through the air, a memory of summer preserved in leaves. Outside, the world was wrapped in silence. The snow had stopped falling, leaving the earth smooth and pale under the moon. No footsteps, no sound, only the soft groaning of frozen wood and the whisper of frost creeping along the walls. But within life, still pulsed, quietly, tenderly. The mother reached for a small clay pot filled with embers from the hearth. It was warm to the touch, and she wrapped it in a thick cloth before placing it near their feet. This was one of their secrets of survival, the humble bed warmer, a clay pot filled with coals, tucked beneath the hay and blankets before sleep. It kept the cold from biting their toes, and the soft smell of earth and smoke lulled them toward dreams. The hay in their beds rustled faintly as they shifted, and the warmth of their bodies began to fill the space between them. In winter, they slept close, not from lack of room, but from instinct. The warmth of another person was the oldest comfort in the world. The father murmured softly, telling the children a story, an old folk tale about the spirit of winter, a ghostly traveler who walked the frozen fields at night. He spoke in a low, rhythmic voice, each word rolling slow and deliberate, as if carved from the air itself. The spirit, he said, was not cruel, only lonely. She wandered through the snow, seeking the sound of laughter, the sight of a fire, the warmth of hearts that would let her rest a while. The children listened with sleepy eyes, imagining a figure of pale frost, her hair made of icicles, her cloak of frozen mist. And when she finds a cottage, the father whispered, where kindness lives, she leaves behind a gift, a frost flower upon the window pane, to remind them that warmth and winter are not enemies, but companions. The youngest child yawned, his tiny fingers clutching the wool blanket. Outside, frost had already begun to bloom on the glass, delicate and swirling, just as, in the story. The mother smiled quietly, her needle paused mid-stitch, for though they knew it was only the cold, the beauty of that frost still felt like a blessing. The fire popped softly, sending a tiny shower of sparks up the chimney. The family drew closer, the children's breathing slow and steady now. The father leaned back, his eyes heavy, listening to the whisper of wind that had begun to stir. It moved through the cracks in the walls like a sigh, soft and mournful. But there was no fear in it, only the sound of the world shifting, turning in its ancient rhythm. He closed his eyes for a moment and imagined the seasons turning. The frozen earth sleeping beneath snow, the seeds waiting, the river dreaming. Every winter, he thought, was simply the earth taking a long, deep breath. As the hours passed, the fire grew smaller, its glow dimming to embers. The light from the candle had burned low, too, its flame trembling like a tired heartbeat. The mother rose quietly, moving with the careful grace of one used to silence. She took a small iron poker, stirred the coals, and placed another log onto the fire. It caught slowly, a faint glow, a tiny breath of flame, and then a steady crackle. The sound filled the room, and with it came that deep, ancient comfort, the sound of life continuing. She sat again, her work set aside, and simply listened to the fire, to her children's breathing, to the stillness itself. Outside, the moon had reached its highest point, spilling silver light across the fields. The roofs of the cottages glittered with frost, each one like a crown of crystal. In the barns, animals shifted in their sleep, their breath rising in small clouds. The oxen leaned together for warmth, their hides steaming faintly. Chickens slept on their roosts, heads tucked beneath wings. Even the stray cat, the mouser of the village, had found a place near the firewood pile, curled in on itself like a dark comma. All of nature seemed to hold its breath, a moment suspended between heartbeat and dream. In another cottage, an old woman sat alone by her hearth. Her fire was small but steady, and beside her lay a wool blanket, half finished, half forgotten. She had lived through many winters, and her eyes held the quiet strength of one who had seen both famine and feast. She whispered to herself as she worked, soft words of thanks for warmth, for bread, for breath. When the wind rattled her shutters, she only smiled, for she knew, as the old often do, that the cold was not an enemy to be feared, but a teacher reminding them to slow down, to gather close, to remember what matters. She reached for a small candle and placed it in the window. Its light was faint, barely enough to pierce the frost, but it was enough. In the deep dark winter, even a single flame can be a promise. Take another deep breath now. Imagine that candle flickering softly in your mind. Its light steady, calm, unhurried. It doesn't try to fight the darkness. It simply glows, and that is enough. You feel that same quiet glow spreading through you, from your chest to your fingertips, to your breath, to your thoughts. You are part of this winter world now, resting, breathing, glowing softly against the cold. Good. That's it. Let your body grow heavier now, like snow settling gently upon the earth. You don't need to do anything. Just breathe. Just listen. Every sound, every word, is like a soft blanket being drawn up around you. You are warm. You are safe. You are exactly where you should be. And as you rest, the night begins to yield, ever so slowly, to the first quiet light of dawn. It began not with the sun, but with sound. Somewhere beyond the sleeping cottages, a single bird stirred. Its wings brushed a frost from a branch, and its faint call, uncertain, delicate, drifted into the frozen air. The sound seemed to ripple outward, a tiny thread tugging the world awake. Then came the creak of a door hinge, the crunch of snow beneath cautious steps, and the muffled thud of boots on hard earth. The village was waking. The long night had passed. Inside the cottages, a slow warmth began to bloom again. The father stirred first, his hands rough and chilled, reaching instinctively for the embers. He pushed aside the ash, found the faint red glow beneath, and smiled quietly. Still alive, he thought. Even the fire had survived the night. He added a few dry twigs, then a small log. The smoke curled upward, and soon a new flame licked at the wood, growing brighter, stronger. The children shifted beneath their blankets, murmuring in half-dreams. The mother stretched, pulling the shawl tighter around her shoulders. Her breath still hung in the air, but already the chill was receding. The coldest night was over. Outside, the village was transformed. Every branch, every rooftop, was sheathed in crystal. The sunrise turned it all to gold, light catching on frost, on the tips of haystacks, on the curved edges of frozen wells. It was as if the world had been dipped in glass, and for a moment, everything shimmered with quiet magic. Even the air itself seemed new, thin and clear, ringing faintly with the song of morning. Smoke began to rise from chimneys again, thin lines of gray reaching toward the sky. Dogs barked softly, a rooster crowed, and somewhere a child laughed, a bright, honest sound that scattered the last remnants of the night. The villagers emerged slowly, bundled in cloaks and furs, their boots crunching through the snow. They greeted one another with smiles, their breath steaming in the light. "Cold enough for you," someone joked, and laughter answered him, thin but genuine. They had all made it through, and that was reason enough to smile. At the center of the village, the old well stood silent, its stones rimmed with frost. The young men took turns breaking the ice atop the bucket, their tools clinking softly against the rim. Each sound echoed like music through the clear, frozen morning. Nearby, a few women gathered, their hands busy with wooden pails. They shared quiet words as the steam from the well's water rose into the chill. Someone mentioned that a calf had been born in the night, and the news spread quickly, warming hearts faster than any fire. A sign of life, a sign of spring's slow return. The blacksmith's forge roared back to life by mid-morning. The sound of his hammer rang bright against the cold air, a rhythm of renewal. Children gathered near his door to watch the sparks fly, their faces glowing with curiosity and wonder. "See that," he said, smiling beneath his beard. "Even iron needs fire to stay strong." "Same as us," he winked, and the children giggled, their laughter echoing through the frosted lanes. In another corner of the village, the old woman who had lit the candle before sleep stood at her window, watching the sun rise. Her candle had burned itself down to a stub, its wax pooled and hardened, but it had lasted through the night, a small miracle in its own way. She pressed a wrinkled hand to the cold glass and whispered a simple prayer, not for wealth, not for ease, but for another day of breath, of warmth, of morning light. By midday, the frost began to soften. Tiny droplets formed on the eaves, sliding down like tears of light. The snow still blanketed the ground, but beneath it, the earth had begun to stir. The villagers went about their tasks, feeding animals, breaking ice from troughs, sweeping their doorsteps. But there was no rush. Each movement was unhurried, gentle, deliberate. The stillness of the night had taught them the rhythm of patience. And as the day wore on, the children gathered by the edge of the frozen stream. They laughed as they slid across the ice, their scarves fluttering like bright ribbons in the air. The mothers watched from a distance, their smiles soft and full of memory. Even the fathers paused in their work to watch, leaning on their tools and listening to the sound of joy ringing through the cold air. For though they lived in hardship, they knew that laughter, like fire, could keep the soul alive. As the sun began its slow descent, the village once again prepared for night. But this evening was different. The fear of cold had loosened its grip. They knew now, deep in their bones, that they could endure it. And so, when darkness returned, the fires were lit, not in haste, but in gratitude. The flames glowed golden against the wooden walls, casting slow, dancing shadows. The smell of stew filled the air, onions, barley, and a bit of salted pork. Someone played a flute by the fire, a tune light and meandering. The same hands that had worked, that had carved and spun and mended, now clapped softly in time. Voices joined again, singing the old songs not of struggle, but of thankfulness. And as the music carried through the village, past the frozen wells, past the barns and trees, and the whispering snow, the world seemed to hum along. For the peasants had learned the quiet truth of their winters, that even in the deepest cold, life continues, gentle and persistent. Warmth is not only in the fire, it lives in the heart, in hands that share, in voices that sing, in the simple act of holding on. Now, my dear listener, let that warmth settle into you. You've traveled through their night, through frost and fire, through fear and light. You've seen the coldest hours give way to dawn. You've felt the quiet endurance of those who came before. And as you rest now, you carry a piece of that world within you, the strength of stillness, the peace of patience, the soft, glowing ember that refuses to die. Breathe deeply once more. Let your body sink into rest. The snow is falling again, but now it feels different, soft, peaceful, a lullaby from the earth itself. The fire hums low, and the world turns slow. Sleep now, gentle dreamer. You've survived the coldest night. And somewhere, beneath layers of time and snow, a new dawn is waiting. Good, just like that. Let the last threads of tension drift away. There's no rush, no need to hold on to the day anymore. Each breath you take now is slower, deeper, more peaceful. You can almost feel the weight of a wool blanket around you. Soft, heavy, comforting. The kind that smells faintly of wood smoke and warmth. The kind that tells you you're home. Now, as you rest in this space between waking and dreaming, let us wander gently into the epilogue of our tale. A quiet reflection, a bridge between their world and yours. Our story of medieval peasants may seem far away, a world of haybeds, clay pots, and candlelight. But beneath the centuries, beneath the layers of time and change, their rhythm still hums quietly in us. For even now, we seek the same things they did: warmth, safety, connection, the small, glowing comforts that make life tender. We build our own fires, though today they may burn behind glass or glow from a tiny screen. Still, they are our beacons in the dark. Still, they are where we gather when the cold of the world grows too sharp. Imagine, for a moment, that same old cottage from our story. The wooden walls creak gently in the night. The air smells faintly of smoke and earth. A single flame dances in the corner, steady, alive. Now imagine yourself there, sitting by that hearth. Your hands are warm, your breath slow. You can hear the faint wind beyond the door, but it no longer feels distant or cold. It feels ancient, familiar, the voice of the earth turning. You realize you have always known this sound, this peace, this rhythm. It is the rhythm of resting, the rhythm of letting go. In every age, there are winters to endure, some outside, some within. And in every age, there is a fire to keep burning. The peasants tended theirs with logs and coals. You tend yours with love, with breath, with the quiet choices you make to keep your heart soft in a hard world. Even now, as you rest, you are keeping that same ancient promise to endure, to hope, to find warmth where you can. Outside the window of that old cottage, snow continues to fall. Each flake drifts slowly, gracefully, settling on the earth with a whisper. The world, for all its noise, is silent again, like a held breath before dawn. And as you watch, The candlelight flickers, casting slow, golden ripples across the wooden beams. The sound of the fire fades into a soft hum, steady and low. You feel yourself swaying slightly, as if rocked by the rhythm of the wind, by the pulse of the world itself. Your eyelids grow heavier, but there's no need to resist. This is the hour of peace, the hour when stories dissolve into dreams. If you listen closely, you might still hear them, the faint echoes of the villagers in the distance. The blacksmith's hammer quiet now, the mother's spinning wheels stilled, the laughter of the children fading into sleep, all of them resting, safe and warm, their breath sinking with yours across time. You are breathing the same air they once did, the same wind that brushed against their fields, the same moonlight that watched over their nights, and that thought, that quiet thread of connection wraps around you like a blanket. You are not alone. You have never been. So, let the story fade now, like smoke curling into the sky. Let it drift upward and outward, leaving behind only warmth. Your body is heavy, peaceful, safe. The fire burns low. The world grows soft. You feel yourself floating, somewhere between the flicker of a candle and the first light of dawn. Every part of you knows how to rest. Every thought quiets itself, as if bowing to sleep. And as you drift deeper, imagine the whisper of an old lullaby, one the villagers might have sung long ago. Sleep, soft soul. The frost is kind. The night is deep. The stars aligned. Rest your hands. The work is done. The fire is low. The morning comes. The words fade like breath on glass. The melody dissolves into silence. Your breathing slows, matching the rhythm of that song, matching the rhythm of the world. And in this silence, in this perfect stillness, you realize the story has not ended. It has simply become your dream. Somewhere, far off, a rooster will call again. The frost will melt. The day will come, but not yet. For now, you are resting in the warmth of ages, surrounded by peace, and watched over by the quiet patience of winter. So sleep now, deeply, fully, without worry. The coldest night is over. You are home, safe in the soft hands of time. Good night, traveler of stories. May your dreams be warm, and your mornings gentle. Feel the air drift in and out of your lungs, a rhythm as old as the first fire. Your breath moves like a tide, slow, gentle, eternal. With every inhale, the world grows warmer. With every exhale, it grows stiller. You are standing in the soft space between night and dawn, where dreams linger, where memory and sleep blur together like candlelight through fog. If you listen carefully, you can still hear the faint echo of the medieval world, the creak of wood, the whisper of war against skin, the hush of snow falling upon thatched roofs. The villagers still sleep, but the world around them is stirring. The frost begins to melt at the edges of windows, running down in tiny silver lines. The birds quiet through the night, shift on their branches, fluffing their feathers against the chill. Somewhere, a dog stretches and sighs. Somewhere, a river murmurs beneath its thin shell of ice. The sun has not yet broken the horizon, but the promise of light hovers gold, waiting behind blue. Imagine walking through that village now, barefoot in the hush of early morning. The snow crunches softly beneath your feet, not cold, but crisp, as if the air itself has turned to silk. The cottages are still half asleep, their chimneys trailing lazy ribbons of smoke into the sky. Every window glows faintly from within, the orange warmth of firelight spilling into the pale blue of dawn. You pass by the blacksmith's forge, quiet now, his hammer still. The anvil glints faintly, rimmed with frost, like a sleeping relic. You hear the faint drip of melted snow from the edge of his roof, slow, steady, patient. Farther along, you see the little stream that winds behind the church. Its surface is half frozen, but beneath the ice, you can see the faint shimmer of movement, water slipping quietly beneath the surface. Life never stops completely. You realize, it simply learns to move differently. A bell tolls softly in the distance, not a sharp sound, but round and low, rolling through the stillness like a warm hum. It marks the first light of day, the beginning of work, the continuation of life. The villagers begin to appear, one by one. They move slowly, stretching limbs stiff from sleep, The cold has softened. The air tastes faintly of thaw. You watch as they greet one another, each nod and smile, carrying the quiet gratitude of survival. There are no grand celebrations, no loud declarations, only the calm acknowledgement that they have lived through another winter night. It is enough. The baker stirs his oven to life. Flour dusts his hands, his breath visible in the rising warmth of his shop. Soon, the smell of baking bread drifts down the lane, rich, comforting, almost holy. Children will wake to that smell, and for a moment, they'll forget the cold, their dreams folding softly into hunger and laughter. The baker hums to himself, an old tune passed down from his father, one his mother sang when the loaves first began to rise. He hums without thinking, his voice merging with the sound of kneading dough, the faint crackle of wood in the oven. Each loaf is more than food. It's memory, it's care, it's survival turned to kindness. Down by the fields, men begin to break the ice in the irrigation channels. The sun, now climbing over the distant hills, casts long golden lines across the snow. They pause sometimes to rest their hands, to breathe in the sharp air, to marvel at how bright the world looks after a night of darkness. In those small pauses, those unspoken, shared silences, something sacred lingers. They do not name it, but they feel it. The same feeling you might get when you stand at a window on a quiet morning, watching the first light touch the world and realizing, in your bones, that everything continues. And as the day unfolds, the rhythm of life resumes its gentle order. A mother draws water from the well. Children gather sticks for kindling. A man repairs the roof of his barn. Each act is small, but together, they form the pulse of existence, the steady heartbeat of survival and love. Even the silence between them feels alive. Now, drift with me from that world, through time, through the turning centuries. The snow of that village becomes mist, the cottages dissolve into memory, and slowly, you find yourself back in your own body, here, now, in your own room. You might hear the faint hum of electricity instead of a fire, the sigh of a heater instead of wind through rafters. But the essence, the peace, the warmth, the human need for rest remains exactly the same. You are, in your own way, a traveler through the same winter, a keeper of the same quiet flame. The medieval peasants survived the coldest nights not because they had great power, but because they had presence. They paid attention to the sound of their fire, to the pattern of snow, to the soft rhythm of each other's breathing. And that is what you are learning to do now, to notice, to breathe, to let the quiet carry you. You are not fighting the night. You are becoming part of it. Your room now feels older somehow. The shadows softer, the light warmer. Every sound has a gentle texture, the faint hum of air, the whisper of your sheets, the steady rhythm of your heart. Each one is its own fire, a small, faithful sound, reminding you that you are here, you are safe, you are alive. Let yourself drift deeper into that soundscape. The warmth of your pillow beneath your cheek, the softness of breath against the air, the faint, invisible hum of peace. In this stillness, you are connected to everyone who has ever sought warmth, the peasants, the poets, the dreamers, the countless souls who have sat by fires and whispered stories into the dark. Their voices echo faintly now, not in words, but in feeling. The same peace that filled their hearts spreads through you. You are the continuation of all those nights, of all those fires. You are what the world has been waiting for. Another quiet soul, breathing warmth into the cold. Let your eyes grow heavier, your breath softer, your heartbeat slower. There is no need to hold on to thought anymore. Imagine one last image before you drift, a candle flickering on a wooden table, its flame small but sure. Outside, snow is falling again, softly, endlessly, like the world is exhaling. The candle's flame sways gently in the air, and you realize it is breathing with you, in, out, together. You and the flame melt into stillness. And soon, there is no more story, no more time, no more distance between you and sleep. Only warmth, only peace, only rest. Sleep now, dear wanderer of forgotten winters. Sleep as the villagers once did, close to the fire, wrapped in quiet dreams, held by the rhythm of life itself. The cold cannot reach you here. The night cannot harm you. You are surrounded by warmth, ancient, gentle, endless. Rest, breathe, dream. The fire has been tended, the world is safe, and the long, cold night is finally past.